Okay, so today we want to talk um, about the fascinating story of a man called Rabeinu Tam. So the story is, in this week's parsha, it's actually a double portion. And one of the things we mentioned in this week's parsha is the verse which says, "Betam larik kochachem," which I'm going to explain in a minute. But first, let's just give a background knowledge. So one of the foremost founding fathers of Ashkenazic Jewry is a man called Rashi. So whoever learns the Talmud knows that every single page of the entire Babylonian Talmud and Jewish Talmud is full of Rashi's commentary, basically. And it's full of Rashi's commentary. So what happened is every page of the Chumash also is full of Rashi's commentary. Now, in around 1095 began the first crusade of Christians. They marched towards Israel and they caused tremendous tsaras and pogroms for the Jewish community. Rashi passed away right after, more or less in the year 1105, right after this whole thing happened. But Rashi's grandchildren were the Baalei Tosfot, so the people who argue with Rashi on every single page of the Talmud. On the other side, on the left hand is Tosfot, on the right hand side is Rashi. They are composed primarily of Rashi's grandchildren, Rashbam, Rivom, and the most famous one is a man called Rabeinu Tam, which we're going to discuss today, the story of Rabeinu Tam. So Rabeinu Tam is like, basically the leading figure in Ashkenazic Jewry. He lived in France. Rabeinu Tam's court was known for enacting tremendous edicts. Basically what Rambam was for Sephardic Jewry, Rabeinu Tam was for Ashkenazic Jewry. He was actually also very wealthy. He had tremendous lands, vineyards. He was in the money lending business. He knew a lot of Jews, not of non-Jews. A very, very, very influential man. His knowledge of Torah was universal. It was unbelievable. And the story with him was that he was almost killed in the Second Crusade. Approximately in the year 1146, a Crusader mob came into his town in France, and they figured that he was the leader of the Jews. So they dragged him and they were about to crucify him. And they basically said, you Jews crucified our Lord, so to speak, so we will crucify yours. And they actually hurt him 5 wounds in his head. And at the very last moment, there was a certain nobleman who came riding by. He was actually a client of Rabeinu Tam, and he actually borrowed a lot of money from Rabeinu Tam. He actually owed him money, which made it even more miraculous. Over the years, Rabeinu Tam had done him tremendous favors. He'd extended his loan, he's waived interest for him. But when the nobleman arrived on the scene, he realized that this mob wants to kill him. All they want is blood. So he had to think quickly how to save his life. And he came upon a brilliant idea. He said, if you kill him, that's just killing one more Jew. Give him to me. Give him to me for 2 days. I will make sure he converts to Christianity, and that will be a much, much bigger thing, that the leader of the Jews converts to Christianity. And if he doesn't convert within 2 days, I'll give him back to you and do with him whatever you want. The mob thought this was a fantastic idea. They gave Rabeinu Tam over to this nobleman, and as soon as both of them were away from the crowds, the nobleman released Rabeinu Tam. He got his family and left behind all his businesses, all his property, all his wealth, everything. He went to the town of where his grandfather was born in Troyes in France, and literally started everything from the beginning. By the way, somebody like the Rosh was one of the most famous Rishonim. He said, like, Rabeinu Tam's knowledge even passed that of the Rambam. Basically, we're talking about one of the greatest Jewish figures. But here's the story I want to focus on today. Rabeinu Tam, his real name was Yaakov. How did he get the name of Rabeinu Tam? It does say in a verse in the Torah, V'Yaakov ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim, about Jacob, our forefather, right? There was Abraham, there was Isaac, and there was Jacob. So it says about Jacob that he was known as Yaakov ish Tam. Tam literally means simple, but simple in the good sense, meaning, yes, he was simple, but simple means he served God. Some people are complex. Some people are sophisticated. I sometimes meet a boy, you say, hey, the girl I'm dating, she's too simple for me. Simple is a good thing. It means, you're serving God with joy, with pleasure, the way it's supposed to be. But the question is, there's many, many, many people throughout history, many great rabbis who are called by the name of Yaakov, And we don't find that they are called Tam, Rabeinu Tam, which means simple. In fact, Jacob, our forefather himself, over which the verse says Yaakov Ish Tam, wasn't called Rabeinu Tam. So what made this man, Yaakov, the founding father of Ashkenazic Jewry, or one of the greatest rabbis in Ashkenazic Jewry, what made his name stick? Rabeinu Tam. And there's a fascinating story with a brilliant lesson specifically for our coronavirus times, which I want to share. And the story was like this. The ancient Jewish custom was that the man or the man's family, the Chatan, paid for all the wedding expenses, but the bride had to show up. However, there was a custom called Nadan. Nadan means dowry. Nadan means that the woman or her family had to bring in a nadan, a dowry, into the marriage. So now dowry, jewelry, money, other assets, they bring into the marriage, and they would enjoy this together with their husband. After a while, it became like, families who sought to entice, so to speak, great son-in-laws, the more nadan they had, the greater opportunity they had to do this. And that's why the mitzvah of marrying a kala, hachnasat kala, was that you help her bring a nadan into the marriage. That's what all the mitzvah of hachnasat kala. Now, problem was, in those days, those years, when life expectancy was short, it wasn't uncommon that a woman would die prematurely, or a man, by the way, even in the first year of marriage. So with women, this was even more common because as a result of pregnancy, as a result of the birth. So what happens in such a situation when the woman dies? So according to Jewish law, the husband inherits everything. Whatever assets the woman brings into the marriage, the husband inherits. So Rabeinu Yaakov, Rabeinu Tam came into the scene and he said, this is crazy. This is crazy. Because what's going to happen? A family, parents who married off their daughter, and they saved up for years. For years, they saved up and are done. So not only did they lose their daughter, but now also they lose the money that they worked on for years to bring into the marriage. They have a double loss. That's not possible. So he enacted an edict where he said that if the wife passes on during the first year of marriage, what's going to happen is all those assets, all that nadan, will return to her parents, and the husband has 30 days to pay it back. Now, where does this come from? A verse in this week's Torah portion. This week's second Torah portion of Bechukotai, which discusses tremendous curses that will happen to the Jews, says the verse, V'tam larik kochachem. Literally, that means that your energy, your strength will be spent in vain. Now, the verse is talking about, where you harvest and you plow and you do everything and the earth won't sprout up. But Rabeinu Tam, what he said was that there's a man who marries off his daughter, he gives her a lot of money, and basically all the energy, all the years that he passed by is lost because now he had to go, this all goes to the husband. So that's why his name became known as Rabeinu Tam, which means I'm like bringing, so to speak, an end to this injustice. So that's why this man, the father of Ashkenazic Jewry, is called Rabeinu Tam. Now, there's a tremendous, deeply moving lesson over here. You see, Rabeinu Tam was one of the greatest halachic figures who ever lived. He explains so much of the Talmud in a new light. If you look at Rashi, if you learn the Talmud, so you read Rashi and then you read Rabeinu Tam, the grandchild argues with Rashi over so many things. There are so many laws that he created, but which law is he known by? Which thing stands out the most? One thing that he did. He eliminated some unnecessary pain from a family who's in mourning over the loss of their daughter. Just by eliminating a little bit of an unjust financial practice. By the way, that never happened that often, but just because of this, he was known as Rabeinu Tam for prosperity. This is the name we call him. This is a tremendous lesson. You see, when you help a Jew, you ease a little bit of pain from a Jew. This is why he's called Rabeinu Tam. We're standing today in the age of the coronavirus, where it's been literally 2 months in isolation, in hibernation, so to speak. And the governor just issued a decree that May 15th, I thought it would end, but June 7th is now in New York at least. So we hope and pray that we'll come out of this pandemic alive, happy, and healthy and well. But in the meantime, if there's a little bit we could do to ease the pain of other people, that is a tremendous thing, which we learn from today's power class. Every single morning, we will have these power classes for exactly 10 minutes.